officially 7:08 p.m. Will you do a roll call, please?
Jeff Bodiger,
Here.
Gary Holbert,
Here.
Mark Tucker,
Here.
James Bullen,
Here.
Dan Wondersen,
Here.
all present.
First thing on, Joe Jennings, the new president, was here last meeting. I've talked to him once since then on a quick update with some other business other than the Ball Diamond. He said that they would have, their meeting at the first of the month. I think it's actually the same night we're back here on the 8th. So he would get with them and talk, and then if we could get, at least signed up or talk. I know that, originally the discussion is whether we could, recoup any of the costs of the power or the water, utilities that we were using. The financials that he, forwarded to me, I don't remember whether I forwarded them to anybody else, but I will. I'll forward those financials to everybody before the first of the month meeting, and you can take a look at them. It looks like they're, got like about $300 or $400 in their checking account until they start the new year, and depending on how the new year goes, maybe they'll be able to build some profits up into that. Also had asked us about some of their lighting and some other stuff that maybe we can take a look at after the first year and see if we can help them out and save them a little money so that money can come back to the community. Second on the line item business here is the trash ordinance 2018-18. I looked over some of that. You had highlighted some in which you had showed me, Councilman Member Tucker had showed me. We had discussed getting, all the preliminaries and what we wanted for that, and then putting that together, and where would we stand at that legally there?
Well, I talked to Jeff Rowe on the 21st. I gave him a call, to let him know, to ask him which rate study we were operating from, and you have your draft from November of 2017, and your final report, which I think is a few days later, so you have your final figures. I unfortunately, even looking at my notes and testing my memory, I couldn't tell him whether we were going with a truck or without a truck, or what type of truck, or anything of that nature. I asked him, in his opinion, whether now that we have a whole other year under our belt of expenses, whether it would make sense to look at those numbers to determine a final rate. And he sent out an email, and I apologize, I should have forwarded this to you, but I'll read it. Good afternoon, Ed and I just had a brief phone call regarding the status of the adoption of the trash rates. It sounds as though the town is getting closer to finalizing its decision on which type of trash truck to go with, and the trash rate needed to support the purchase or lease of the truck and support operations. Given the amount of time that has passed since the original rate study, that is November 3rd, 2017, it may be worthwhile to dust off the study to reflect current numbers, both by way of operational costs and the financing costs of a new truck. If this is something you would like our assistance with, just let me know. Thanks, and I wish you all a happy holiday. So one of the things that's not referenced in this email is part of our discussion where he and I agree that as you're looking at Exhibit A of the trash ordinance, which sets your rates, residential and dumpster rates, we're both willing to stand on the certainty of the November 3rd, 2017 study. If rates were remonstrated or appealed or anything of that nature, I mean, it's a valid study, and those rates are reasonable because they are across the board. The question becomes whether or not you've changed your options in that regard. And certainly there's been a lot of talk throughout 2018 about labor costs and whether or not you want to take a look, and this is my idea, whether you want to take a look at wages that are being paid or CDL differentials, and whether or not that's something that can be reflected in the rate. But that's entirely up to the board, of course. So in plain English, if you wish to introduce that rate ordinance that you have there, and mind you, that also goes beyond just the rates, you can use the rate study, the final rate study that was issued on November 3rd, 2017. And then the timetable that we reviewed earlier in the month, I think at this point gets kicked forward by however much time that takes to introduce your ordinance and publish your schedule of rates. The alternative is whether you want to, as Mr. Rowe puts it, dust off the November 3rd, 2017 report to reflect the financials from 2018.
I have a comment. The rate study that we did, there was a number of things. There was outsourcing, of course, and the other option that was considered was leasing or purchasing a truck, which we have decided that we weren't gonna do. So, does this even reflect what we're doing now, is my question.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I wonder whether it would make sense to take a look at those numbers again.
I mean, I'm all for moving ahead and getting a rate established, but this does not reflect what we propose to do in the future.
How much was that rate study, do you know? Anybody, clerk?
There was so many additions and changes to it, I don't remember the total unless I go back and look.
Let me put it in one page. There was
Yeah.
there
But I think
rate
there were
chart.
three different,
It's about $7,000.
I'm thinking it ended up being 13 or 14 at the end, with all of the different changes, but I'd have to look and see.
Any other comments down there, Mark?
No, I think we're close. My concern is it doesn't reflect what we've said we're gonna do, so.
Comments from your end there?
I totally agree that, you know, what we discussed and what we now want to do is totally different.
Dan?
I think you're right.
I guess, and this was brought up in a couple different aspects of, are we doing exactly what we thought we would be doing legally? Establishing the rate ordinance and starting to, charge what is equally and fair, I think, not only for the town, but for the customers as well. I hate to say it, if it costs us another $7,000 to move forward, we're losing that every month or something like that was the original thought. We were losing almost $10,000 on charging $4.50 a customer instead of 12 or 13, which in my numbers would have been somewhere in that recuperating range. And we did decide that we would like to keep it in-house, keep workers in-house, and we've decided that we thought that the truck would last a year longer and that we could go back and entertain that thought again. I actually think we need to make some kind of move on this rate ordinance and get some finalized numbers in the ballpark of where Mark said those rates seem to be close, but we need to make sure that we're not really overcharging or undercharging. I think we're going to be supplying what we said we would be supplying, and that would be a man-handled truck. We looked at some other options that might be a little bit ergonomic or and economical, but we've passed them up for right now by buying or leasing a truck.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I don't understand the rate studies, I'm new to this, but if we're basing this rate on wages, CDL, cost, I don't know what else is hidden in there, why can't we do like an average for the last year of what it costs to operate? I mean, we're eliminating a truck. I mean, I don't even know if it's feasible, I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't think anything's hidden in there.
No, I'm not saying it's hidden, I'm
Well,
just
yeah,
saying.
But,
what-
and I don't think I'm qualified to speak to that, you know, I don't know that dusting off the report would cost $7,000. So far, this isn't costing the town anything, and one of the questions that I had for Mr. Rowe that I think he could better answer is, if you're looking at the cost of a new truck in the rate study, is there enough information in the current rate study to compare that to the notion of paying back for the old truck? And can that be essentially a parity swap? In other words, you're setting a rate that would be as if you're buying a new truck, you're not, but you're also at the same time recouping that as an option on the old truck. As far as, cost analysis, I don't know that there would be much work that would need to be done to bring that up to speed. Generally speaking, you're not required to go through a cost analysis if you are instituting an across-the-board rate study, and that's what this is. However, I think the best practice is what you have followed, and that is to obtain a rate study. So, I hope I'm not muddying the water. I think the rate study from November 3rd, 2017 is valid, and there may be enough information in there, if guided by Mr. Rowe, to glean to set your rates now without, redoing the whole thing. But that's up to you, because as a matter of policy, if, you're changing the number of people working on the trash truck, or what you're gonna pay them, or what you're gonna pay the drivers, whatever it may be, there may be some more work that needs to be done beyond the numbers.
In your terms, dust off or update,
Fish terms, but yeah.
let's entertain a motion to update, dust off that rate study from Umball and try not where we are in the situation of November 17, which is over a year ago. Let's not end up in that same situation again, and try to move us forward fast as possible to adopt a rate to keep us from losing and going further in the red.
Maybe
Can we
ask
get
Umball
For,
what they might recommend and what it might cost and how quickly can they
Yeah,
provide
for-
that.
Yeah.
So would you want to provide information on updating? A motion to provide information to update, or do you just want me to get that information and bring it to the 8th? Because we can do it one of
I
two
would-
ways.
I would
mean,
get
if
that
it's-
information,
Bring it to the
bring it to the 8th,
Okay,
and that way
What
we'll
it
have
would-
an idea
what
of
it
what
would
that could cost, and
okay.
kinda like
And then to move quickly, I
bid.
would
I
think
was
that,
gonna say, because if we, I'm just gonna say this really quick. The other thing is, it won't take them long to do it. They have everything already there. It's just taking new numbers and throwing them in. So, I think the update that we did to get to the 2017, I think was 1,300 or 1,400. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't a huge amount like 7,000 like you're thinking, because they were just trying to take the stuff that they had earlier in the year or late 16.
And, looking at this, I mean, the general labor rate from $8 to $13 has not changed that drastically either.
and I would also recommend to expedite things, that I think a conversation, for Mr. Slick to then contact Mr. Rowe and give him his thoughts on the operational aspects that either are existing or that he might be looking to implement would be
So
helpful.
the specs,
We're gonna have a truck, we think it's gonna last this long, this is what, this is how many people are gonna be, how many employees we're gonna have, and what what their pay rates might be, et cetera. I would hope that they could have something, before the end of January, that
I'm
you could
sure
act
they could.
upon, yeah.
Because they have the base already, it's
Yeah.
just
so,
taking the information and updating.
Is there, then my other question is, can we introduce the ordinance without the rates, or do we need the rates?
You can, but you can, however, the next step would be then to publish the schedule of rates, and that's, at some point, you're gonna have to actually go through your second reading and amend it.
Public
put the rates
hearing.
in, so that you can then, because the ordinance as it is of, I think, significant value to the ratepayers, should they wanna come and review it, because it's gonna tell them everything from when you set up your cans, and what are the standards of service, but when it gets to what's it's gonna cost you, that's gonna be blank, the current blank.
Dan, anything else?
Oh, man.
Get a motion to move forward with that, have Mr. Slick and the clerk talk with Umball and Mr. Rowe as well, and find out where we're headed. Yes, sir.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Dan. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried.
So I'm just clarifying, we're just getting the information and bringing it back, we're not asking them to go forward and do it.
No, just some information
Okay.
and the numbers and providing what information they need from, town manager, with the situation where we're going with this. Next one, salt building, we're moving that forward to next year. Ordinance 2018-15, voluntary annexation was waiting on the possible purchase.
Who seconded that motion?
I did.
Oh,
Dan.
okay. Thank you.
You held your public hearing. I'm going from memory, folks. You
Yeah.
adopted your resolution, adopting fiscal plans. You're in second reading, or are we going to third?
It's in second reading, going to third.
Okay, so it's been more than the requisite amount of time, and
Yep.
Gina,
So we have 10 days.
none of the landowners have withdrawn their petitions? Then I would recommend you can go to third reading and adoption.
Okay.
And then I'll work with Gene and the clerk to make all the necessary recordings and filings of your and publication of your adopted ordinance.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would make a motion to accept ordinance 2018-15, voluntary annexation, to go to third and final reading and adoption.
Motion by Gary, second.
Second.
Second by Mark. Roll call on that.
Jack Bodeker,
Aye.
Dan Wondersen,
Aye.
Mark Tucker,
Aye.
James Bullen,
Aye.
Gary Holbert,
Aye.
all ayes, no nays.
Thank you. Ordinance 2018-15, an ordinance annexating certain territories to the town of Centerville, Wayne County, Indiana, placing the same within the corporate boundaries therefore, and making the same as part of the town of Centerville. Give me just a second on delay here, folks, and we'll start passing these 3 copies around and move to the next item. It's right behind the first page there, Mark. Second page. Yeah, they usually are back there, that's what messed me up too, so. I was actually the second copy before I realized it. Okay. Make sure nobody misses that, please. Next on the line of item, business and second reading, stormwater rate,
Still deferring that.
and that's due to the possible purchase, correct?
Yep.
I was speaking ahead of myself, so go ahead, legal.
Yes, Mr. Slick can jump in when I'm done if he has anything new to add, but from what my understanding, we're waiting on the results of the water table testing. We don't have a report from Patriot yet. Okay. And connected to that, Gene and I have both been in communication with Mr. Bolander, who, although under an option to purchase that expires March 1st, effectively meaning you're gonna have to make your decision to buy this, exercise your option by February 28th, well, the last day of February, I would say. I wouldn't wait that long. He's itching to sell. And so we're kind of stuck between that rock and that hard place, waiting for the
Do we see
results.
that, sorry about that, do we see that coming together before then? I know I'm looking at the town manager and the building inspector.
I'm looking for the results in the next couple of weeks, showing.
And that next storm board, you got another storm board meeting set, scheduled?
They haven't said it yet.
Oh, 10th would be today.
Yeah. He's getting with everybody and letting me know. He's thinking it might be the,
You said the final deadline would be at the end of February then?
Your option expires on March 1st, so if you're gonna exercise it, you need to exercise it.
Okay.
I'd say no
There again, we hate to drag our feet, but we're waiting for the info. As soon as we get the info,
We can move forward.
we'll move forward with that. Any other comments from the council on that? Down this end? No? That end? No? Okay.
I'd recommend that motion that you table the ordinance till
Motion to table the ordinance, scheduled for next meeting and maybe more information by then on the 8th.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Gary. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Just got this copy. Everybody's taking a look at this. This is ordinance 2018, -17. I'd like a motion to introduce this ordinance tonight, being the first time we've seen it. Do I hear a motion to introduce this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to introduce this ordinance and do first reading by title only.
A motion, to introduce the ordinance 2018-17, first reading, title only, made by Dan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Gary. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions, so carried. Timeline on this as well. I'd like to entertain a motion on ordinance 2018-17 to suspend the rules and regulations and move to third and final reading and adoption. Do I hear a motion on that?
So moved.
Motion by Gary. Do I hear a second? Second by James. Roll call on that, please.
Jack Bodecker,
Aye.
James Bullen,
Aye.
Holbert,
Aye.
Wandersee,
Aye.
Tucker,
Aye.
all ayes, no nays.
All those in favor and adopted ordinance 2018-17, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Centerville, Indiana, to fix the compensation of its own members, the town clerk treasurer, and the town marshal, and provide reasonable compensation for other town officials, employees for financial year 2019. Let's start getting those three copies around to everybody real quick here. It's on the back this time.
Did you vote on that? Oh, all right. Okay.
Roll call is done.
I'll give it to you all at once, that way we can. First one's a little bit longer than the second two. There's 2 and 3. I'll let you guys sign a little bit here. The next line of business is ordinance 2018-19. We did a resolution on this. This is a rollover unused days, but I'd like to get a motion to introduce this ordinance tonight on first reading and read by title only of ordinance 2018-19. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Gary. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. An ordinance of the town of Centerville, the town council of Centerville, Indiana, to carry over acquired personal and vacation days for the police department and one other utility worker employee. With this again, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and regulations and move to third and final reading and adoption of 2018-19. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Gary and Dan. Do I hear a second? Second by James. Roll call, please.
Petersey,
Aye.
Gary Holbert,
Aye.
James Bullen, Mark Decker,
Aye.
all ayes, no nays.
Motion carried. Ordinance 2018-19, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Centerville, Indiana, to carry over acquired personal and vacation days for the police department and one utility employee. Next line item of business, 2019 fuel rates update had been moved to January 8th, where you'll have some more information for us at that council meeting, correct?
I hope to upload it to the file tomorrow, so you'll have a chance to review it for the next meeting.
Okay. Okey-doke. 2019 meeting schedule, this is released by the clerk every year to the press to let them know, not only because it's election year for this town council, but I think that, the spring election date, and I'm looking for a motion to take the spring election date, for that town council meeting or work session, depending on, is that, no, it's the second Tuesday. First Tuesday, for those, work sessions to be moved to that following Wednesday, same time, same place. Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry, I just wanna fill you in on what it is. It's just the notice of the regular meeting. So if there is a change to it, all we have to do is notify them in advance of anything that's changed based off of this. So what I normally do is they have a form that I fill out that gives the days of the meetings and the times of the meetings.
So that
if
would
your
not be
regular
affected by election
schedule-
day ever, then?
No, this is just something that we give out so that it can,
Okay.
yeah, and you can always let them know in advance. When we put out the agenda, then they know that it is gonna be changed from the regular scheduled date, but all they want is the regular meetings. So are you
Okay.
still gonna have the first Tuesday, the second Tuesday, and all of that stuff?
Do we,
That's what they
does
really
anybody
wanna
have a qualms with that, short of the work session on the first Tuesday in those 2 months in,
And no,
in May
and no
and
work session
November?
in January.
Huh?
And no work session in January.
January?
Because of the final council meeting of the year.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? A motion to approve that timeline?
So moved.
Motion by Gary, do I hear a second? Second by James, all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstentions, so carried. Any other things under unfinished business, council members? Yes, go ahead, sir.
Donnie talked to me today. Donnie, would you share, we had an inspection today?
Yeah, we had an inspection from the item inspector today, and for the most part, it was pretty good. She had 2 issues. One was, she went through the lab records and the maintenance records and determined that we only have 1 employee back there, and she said that's not enough, because based on the fact that, lift stations should be checked twice a week, or getting checked twice a month. Our jetting this year, we only did it twice this year. Last year, we did it twice a week. So she determined that we need more help back there than just 1. And then the other issue is a paperwork issue where we're using the maximum monthly average instead of the minimum monthly average. So all Jeff's gotta do is resubmit that and that'll be fine. And then her report will be back in a couple of weeks. She'll email it to either Jack or Dan, whoever the president is at that time. But overall, it's pretty good.
Where do we stand on employees?
I have 1 part-time position left to fill. All of our present employees do
So
not
we got
wish to
12
support
full-time employees,
We have 9 full-time right now.
because we discussed that at the council meeting, to the 12 that we had year after year after year. Because that, he's gotta have at least, we always had 3 back here. 2 in water, and then 2 in electric, which has been the standard practice for years for safety reasons.
Yeah.
So Susan, you had a comment?
Yeah, you have to be able to afford 12. And if you're gonna, if you're gonna be able to give them, if you're gonna be able to give them raises, then you're gonna have to look at rate increases. Cause it
Well,
has to come from the utilities
I
themselves.
understand that, and here again, we've done rate studies last year, all of them, and,
Actually,
We did
two
rates
years ago.
2 years ago,
well,
2 years ago.
and then we've had that,
And there's been increases in
every year,
cost of
that's why
everything.
we're falling
There's-
way behind. We're gonna get in trouble.
Question, and I'd like for any council member to ring in on this. And maybe I'm forgetting something here. Water, electric, and wastewater. In my opinion, is there needs to be 2 people trained, and this is just brought up with this department. 2 people at least in training, or 1 certified to certain qualifications. Am I forgetting anything there? I mean, it's not like you gotta have 2 people trained anything on the streets, or 2 people trained with anything in any of the other areas there. So that's a minimum of 6 people in that certain area, correct?
Yes.
And then you've got trash, and so there's 6, and then now I'm saying trash, you need 3 people on a trash truck, and 2 of those need to be qualified at least for CDL, so 1 can back up the other if they're sick. That's 3. Now I'm up to 9. That leaves nobody for the streets. What do you think streets deserve? Then I got a question mark on that. Is that 1 or 2 people, or are you pulling somebody from somebody else? Let's say 2 people, now I'm up to 11. I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box. Does anybody else got any comments on that?
Question.
From the board.
If we're gonna run if you're wanting to talk about the trash department or the Packer department, that only works till, what, 1 at the most?
Depending on what day. Wednesdays, might be a little longer than that, that's a day's day.
So,
We have an hour to 2-hour window
Yeah.
that you can take those 3 somewhere. So
on what days?
on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Because those are the 3 days we run the trash route. Don't we
Yes.
run a Tuesday trash route too?
That's just for dumpsters.
Dumpsters.
But I do have another question though.
Yes, sir.
Have you got any candidates lined up for those positions?
As it stands now, all I have is 1 part-time position, and I have no candidates actually interested in a part-time position.
So you don't have any candidates right now for wastewater, water, or electric?
I have 1 employee interested in water, 1 interested in electric. As far as wastewater, I have none that's interested in going back.
If we don't fill an extra position or start taking that just in that department, or would we be looking, I mean, you've dealt with other city corporation stuff, you think we're, and not setting you aside yet for your opinion here, because I'm gonna ask you here in a second, Mr. Miller. Would that be setting us aside with any problems in the future?
I can see problems in the future.
Okay,
Mr. President,
Wind up shutting you down.
yes, go ahead, Gary.
I've got one serious question that keeps haunting me here for some reason, but is it true to me, should I believe that, within the next couple of years, you feel like you might wanna slip into retirement? Is that what I'm gathering?
Who you talking to? You talking to me?
Yeah,
Oh, probably, I would say 4 years.
in 4,
4 years.
and to get a number 1 or,
To get a number 1 license in sewer plant, it takes 2 years, and then 2 more to get to number 2, and then another year to get to number 5. Oh, excuse, I said that wrong. 1 year for number 1, 2 more years
2,
for 2, 2 more years for 5.
so you're looking at a 5-year program here
Yeah.
at the minimum.
And that's what we had up until last year.
Who was your last, Mr. Miller, who was your last, person that worked with you on a regular basis down there? Not counting, because apparently Jeff's just kinda like covering us.
Dean and Lee,
Lee,
Okay,
Dean and Lee.
For a length of time, yeah, last one would have been Dean.
pardon me, guys. Dean?
And Dean's been gone since, probably March or April of last
Did we
year.
not have the discussion, me and you, that I had kinda heard rumor maybe he might come back, but he won't now? Is that correct?
He got promoted
At his other job? Okay.
he's a supervisor now.
I'd also heard some good words from somebody else in the town, that he was great at the water meter thing and doing some other jobs that, so I guess, and not to cut you off on this, Dan and the magic numbers, talking 12's what he's seen in different records, as James asked that question when we first walked in. What I seen here was 2 water, 2 electric, 2 wastewater, that's 6, 3 trash, and yeah, I think you could you could utilize them trash guys with streets or whatever else you need on emergency jobs, or leaf picking up, or a lot of things that I think you could utilize. And don't get me wrong, I think you could utilize one out of each one of the water, electric, and wastewater. You don't really need that second guy there all the time.
No.
I don't know, I don't do that every day, and I'm not gonna say that's a fact, but that's just my guess. So I guess I'm looking at that magic number of 11. You say you're at 9. I know it's hard to get people to come to work for you. The market's really stiff. I'm seeing some really fine looking jobs out there for some young people, or even middle-aged people, or elderly people, or whatever we wanna put in for it, not to be discriminatory. I've seen people come out of retirement and are making so much money a year, still collecting Social Security. And that's the magic number. I think we need to continue to look at this. I think last time I asked you to try to come up with that magic number. I know, example, when you weren't here, in between that term, all 5 members, and I should say 6, because the clerk even did some stuff that the manager did a little bit. We all put in our extra hours or help and managerial skills, and I know that a couple people heard me preach about efficiency. I wanna keep the jobs here in town. I don't wanna sell out to Indiana American Water. I don't wanna sell out to electric companies. I don't wanna sell out to sewage companies. I think keeping some jobs locally and trying to keep them as competitively we can with the money that we can spend, that's limited as well. I know we're on the lower pay scale of not only just this county and community, but the state, from the utilities to the police department. I hope we continue to work forward and look forward to do more competitive with that. I don't wanna see that get out of the control of the county, or the city, or the state. Any other questions, comments on that?
Would you put the rate study from the sewer on the cloud, and then also the one for the electric on the cloud?
I think they're already there, or we may have them in email, but yeah,
Well, our check, make sure they are, not what.
yeah.
I asked that you keep working with all 5 of us on where you think you need to be with that. Effective of the first year, I won't be sitting in this position, but I think we all sit in the same mutual position of the 5 of us are dedicated to what's the best for this town, including the 4 departments that I can think of right now: the clerk's office, police department, fire department, and utility department. Any other questions or comments on?
Question.
Yes, sir.
You have your crews out quite a bit, they're obviously out. Do you ever have a problem getting a hold of them? Contact, radio, telephone? Do you know where they're at all times? I mean, if. for
I have
example-
an idea of where they're at all times. To say I know exactly where they're at all times.
So if you make a phone call to them, they
Oh, yeah.
immediately,
Yeah,
okay.
we get to the northern will break up in certain places, just due to the current.
Do our trucks have radios in them?
Not everybody carries portables.
Is your primary, though, their personal cell phones?
The portables are the primary, cell phones are the backups.
Just curious.
Yeah, he's talking about efficiency.
Efficiency.
And, there's other programs that if you wanna insinuate them or you wanna talk to me, even though the private sector and the public sector aren't the same, when it comes to where you wanna be and know what's going on, I've got ideas, I'm sure everybody else has got ideas, whether they're good or bad or ugly, I don't know. Gary, anything else?
No, other than just stay at it and see if you can't find some candidates. Cause I have a feeling that, talking about it is one thing, but I hate to see us end up without one, cause that could be devastating.
So I understand we're looking for 2 more employees, a minimum. Is that
Those are just numbers I shot out of my head that might work.
And
That's a discussion, and this whole town council helps make those decisions along with the financial information that's given to us. If we're restricted by financial, then we need to look at all those numbers and say, okay, maybe 12's not the magic number, and we've always carried 12, but we have to have at least 10 or 11 to supply the town with efficient service without getting in some kind of a violation situation where we're at possibly with not, or even, a dedicated employee. After 4 or 5 more years, how many years would you been here, Donnie?
13 or 14.
Okay, so we hope to find somebody else that's willing to put 13 or 14 years in. We got a couple police department employees. We got, Anthony, how many years you been together with us for both shots?
This will be rolling on 4, I believe.
So, certifications of, you said 5 years to acquire where we need to be, and if, hopefully we can get somebody to that situation where, we appreciate what Mr. Lowmiller does for us, but if we can get somebody to go all the way up the ladder, and then get another guy in behind him, when Donnie decides he wants to give it up, we'd be set with that too, so.
I just have one more question.
Yes, sir.
I've been sitting on the board since October 1. Jeff comes in, he's the overseer of all the paperwork for the sewage plant.
He's got the license.
I have not met or talked to the guy that oversees the paperwork for our water department. Is he no longer working for us?
Brian?
Yeah.
Brian Markley.
I've not
He
heard
works-
anything from
He
him.
works for IMPA also.
Okay,
Yeah,
I mean,
and he does the same thing, but yeah, we can get him to meet you, I'm
Sure,
sure.
it's not that, it's just, Jeff brings us reports and things like that, but I'm just curious.
Brian's been here on a couple, and matter of fact, he answered you in the meeting before you became a councilman about
Right.
all the,
That's what I
and
thought.
we can, if anybody's got any questions of any of those gentlemen or anybody else that we can get any information spread around, there's no reason that we can't be, breaking down those barriers.
The reason I say that is we don't have a licensed water.
And we need
employee.
2 people working on that. That was my, and Councilman Tucker and me had talked about that originally, where you always had one person, and then a backup person, and that's a good thing. That was a good discussion that we've had several times, so.
I think that needs to be priority.
Yeah, because if you lose those people with their license, you think an employee's gonna cost you money? When, in order to keep your ident comes in, takes plan over?
Another thing we had discussed along with the police academy thing, and we had discussed along with the CDL, maybe that, I don't know how much time or investment we would have in a water license or a wastewater license, and if we invest over a period of 5 years to get somebody a class 3 wastewater license, maybe we should ask them to, stay within 2-3 years after that before they run off to work for Richmond Sanitary or somebody like that, or they have to pay us back for all that educational
That was
funds.
one thing we discussed last meeting.
So I think that's definitely a future thought as well.
How close is Sean getting his license for the water?
He's applied to take the test. We're looking at a month to a month and a half at the earliest.
We can discuss that at future meetings and things I just rambled on about there. Anything else from you, Dan? Mark, any other questions, comments on anything?
Yeah, my only comment is, I understand the urgency to get somebody, but if you don't have people lining up, there's nothing you can do.
Sure. Yeah, I sat here and probably made a plug for my company that I probably shouldn't have, but it's still out there and we've got some more applicants, but we're not, it's just, it's very few and far between. There's not a dozen people standing in line for every job now. Portland, Oregon Police Department and Seattle Police Department are recruiting in Indiana, trying to get people to move out there, so it's crazy. So, any other comments or questions? Board, legal, clerk, front row.
Mr. President, where do we stand on the utility foreman job description?
That, we need to make a description on that, and that would be a good thing along with, I think that, again, I had discussed, performance job reviews and requirements wrote out for each job. I know that me and Mr. Tucker have talked about that before and that's never been done. And maybe that's something that, each department liaison should work with if Mr. Wandersea sees fit when he takes care of that next year. How much education, how much time, and what your requirements are to do for each job, so we know how to base you out, start you out, and move you forward. And continuing education is definitely a factor in every aspect of anything in this world today. So utility foreman, there's been a line item acquired on the salary ordinance that we just adopted tonight, whether there's requirements for that, saying that we all agreed, and I think we all agree that the utility foreman needs to, is it good for the utility foreman to work on getting a water license or more electrical education or a wastewater license, or even if it's not the number 3 class, which is the highest, what about a number 1? So that way, if they have to step in there and do any of those jobs that they're required to supervise, they should be able to have some knowledge and some experience in those jobs. Is that good enough? You got any other questions, comments for me?
So from my
Disagreeable
understanding,
or agreeable, either one?
well, from my understanding, the individual that you're talking about has agreed to do his water license. So,
Anything that, forwards you into knowing that you want to move into those positions or and supervise over those positions properly. Because I don't have the education to tell a guy about wastewater. I wouldn't be the guy to be supervising or making decisions on that, so. Maybe some managerial decisions, I have some education, some documentation on that, but nothing other than that. Next row back, Mr. Lawson, you got like your eyes just roaming and talking into yourself in your head there? Okay. Anybody else in the third row? Fourth row? Any questions at the door, sir? Okay, with that, entertain a motion to close this meeting.
Go ahead, I'll second it.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Gary. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstention, 7:57. Everybody have a blessed, happy New Year.